He says, I want to be in the Q&A.
Levi, Salt Terrier.
All asked and answered tonight by Levi. Oh, I gotta pop it out. There it is.
Good evening. Assault Terrier, yep. Levi the Assault Terrier. It's very needy tonight.
He's needy every night.
North Carolina. Nittany. We are Penn State. Nebraska. Kentucky, Indiana.
We're supposed to be getting a new little Yorkie pretty soon.
An Assault Teacup Yorkie. LA. Behind the lines. Canada, eh? How you doing, you knob? Utica, New York, behind the lines. Katie. Illinois.
Oh, Italy.
Buonasera. Come stai?
Brent living in Virginia. Hey, Steve.
Steve. You have a Brent in here?
Mm-hmm.
Did he celebrate Treason Day on the 4th? Philly. Angola.
Give it another minute. Let some more people float in. A Dallas stud muffin here.
Indiana. Appleton, Wisconsin. I have family in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Hey, Adnan.
Yeah, Adnan. Michigan. And a cup of tea drinks. I want anyone.
Texas just deregulated its pressure. What's it like living in a free state?
Everybody's still a little bit nervous about doing. There's still some people, a lot of manufacturers still afraid of what the feds might do. So I think they're still not sure how they're going to handle it yet. Oh, Angola, Indiana. I thought you meant Angola country.
Well, I want to thank you to Bill. He sent a donation earlier. He just said he had no question. He just wanted to help support the channel. And he said that he likes the content expertise and the Texas attitude.
Wind and Weaponry. You got a video of Wind and Weaponry coming up here probably within the next week on one of their 224 Valkyries. And I'm going to be doing a big video coming up on the MCS. You know, which started off as the MGI Hydra.
Okay, we're going to kick it off and get going here. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that we're going to try to get through as many as possible. If you guys would like to make a donation, it would be greatly appreciated.
Please, thank you.
You can do so by putting it into the chat and clicking the $sign and doing a super chat donation. Google does take 30%, and that's kind of a lot. We do have an alternative method. It's on smallarmsolutions.com, but I'll also pop it in here into the chat. It's through DonorBox. They only take about 3 to 5%. And it's the same thing. I'll get an email. I have my phone here, and you get to bump the line of questions that'll be coming in. But, of course, you don't have to donate to get your question asked, but donations are appreciated because we don't do sponsorships and we don't what is it, sell out? Yeah. Somebody said that we sold out on the M14. We'll talk about that later. As we a check involved, you're going to sell out.
Yeah, somebody took my check out of the mail.
Okay, Steve's up first tonight. He wants to know, please explain again your feelings about the high pressure bolt and firing pin in a 6.5 Creedmoor system. Is it necessary or just a gimmick?
I believe it's a gimmick because if I've shot a lot of 6.5 Creedmoor out of LMT's rifles, and LMT does not use that. They use a standard 7.62 bolt that they came up with when they did the 308. There's only a few companies that really use it. Is it necessary? I do not believe so at all. I've never had one, and I shot a lot of 6.5 Creedmoor.
Kirk is next on Donnerbox. Thank you, Kirk. He has a question about his Smith & Wesson M&P 10. He has an H2 buffer in it, and the weapon choked stovepipes with a Cavum 7.62 from Venezuela in the plastic sleeves. Bought a bunch at Knob Creek in the mid-90s, so he had problems with that. And then he said all other ammo, South African, German, Winchester, Black Hills, Barnes, all ran like a sewing machine. From a utilitarian viewpoint, would you suggest stepping down to an H1 or just not shoot ancient military ammo? Why the marked difference in accuracy between the commercial 308 and the military ammo, which was shooting 3.75 to 5 inches? That's the RSA, Venezuela, German, and Winchester M80, is the consistency tolerances of the commercial loading.
Well, first off, your rifle tends to like 308 ammunition. 308 is a hotter ammunition than 7.62, and I mentioned that. So you're far better off going with that. Now, as far as some of this surplus ammunition, some of the surplus ammunition probably is surplus because it was not made to specification. So my guess is what you have is military ammunition that when it went to quality control testing was underpowered, so it wasn't accepted by that military, so it was sold on the commercial market. That's quite common with a lot of this surplus stuff. Current military calibers that are made in military arsenals, there isn't surplus because of the simple fact that it's in use today. So a lot of stuff that you're seeing that's military is stuff that was rejected. But your rifle, again, from my experience with it, I had some 7.62 data it did like, but it liked every 308 that I put in it. Putting a lighter buffer might help with that specific ammunition, but since it's only one type of ammunition that it's not working with, that tells me it's the ammo the problem, not the gun.
Kevin on Donnerbox, thank you, Kevin. What could be some improvements to update the 1980s designs of the Glock pistols to make them more competitive in today's handgun market? Glock pistols are decent, but other companies have designed their own versions of plastic frames, striker-ride pistols that also work well.
Well, if you look at what people have done to make them change, it's really just ergonomics and being able to accessorize and being able to put optics on it. Once you have removable back straps and once you have optics ready, once you have slightly improved trigger and you have the ability to mount lights and lasers into it, there's not really much else you can do with it. It's all lipstick and rouge. Glock changes mechanics with the Gen 5. Other companies they do a little bit differences with the ergos, but really those are the only things that you really can do to improve anything these days is to make sure it has the ability for all that. Another thing is providing a barrel that's threaded.
For a cold match target circa late 90s with plastic buffer, what buffer should I replace it with? H or H2? It is a registered pre-ban in California.
Well, if it's got a plastic buffer, it's a regular rifle buffer. And there's no H1 or H2s. You get a standard rifle buffer.
Michael on Donnerbox, thank you so much, Michael. He said, just thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is the stepped pistol chamber a real benefit that people would ever notice? Or is it more of a market differentiation item to make some pistols sound more better than others? How could a customer verify the benefit of a stepped chamber?
I'm going to have to look into that one.
Kevin, we'll get back
I'm
to
going to have
that.
to look into that one and get back to you. I can't visualize what a step chamber is in my head right now. I have to do some research.
Kevin, I'll get back to you. I'll just email it to you. What are some design features of handguns to make the handguns more or less tolerant to sand?
Well, it's a matter of not having stuff get into it. You got to keep stuff out of the magazine, and you got to keep it out of the chamber. So basically, having a sealed up magazine well to keep the sand from getting into the magazine is important, and then making sure that you have everything is sealed up as much as possible. You do have areas where sand gets in around where the barrel fits into the slide. You do have openings in there for really, really fine sand. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to make something 100% reliable in all conditions. It is a mechanical device that has to have parts, moving parts. And if you get stuff in those moving parts that obstructs it, you're going to cause a problem. So it really just matters, how tightly you can seal off the system. but you seal it up too tight, then you risk having other reliability problems.
I just finally got 5 boxes of 677 grain 5.56 ammo. What's the difference between this ammo and Black Hill 77 grain, other than I still can't find?
Black Hills uses a specific powder that was developed for the Mark 262. It's a specific blend that determines its velocity, its temperature stability, its flash. It's a proprietary propellant. Nobody has been able to duplicate that in the market. Now, getting to your Sting ammunition. Sting 77 grain is incredibly accurate ammunition. I have used thousands of it over the last 10 years. It's excellent ammunition. You're probably going to get very similar, not quite, but you'll get some accuracy at a much more reasonable price. That is excellent ammunition. The Black Hills is unique compared to any 77 grain in the market, and it has to do with that propellant.
What are some reasons why a gun company would be friendly towards citizens when it comes to servicing and repairing the firearms on their own, such as CZ or Walther? And why would some companies be hostile towards citizens servicing their own firearms, such as HK, S&W, or Springfield Armory? In the prehistoric days, the gun parts were custom fit due to poor manufacturing techniques and poor designs. That is no longer a valid excuse for firearms with interchangeable parts.
Lawyers and liability. If the gun's altered from the condition that it was provided to you, then the lawyers can say that the manufacturer's not responsible for it. If they do the repair work for you, then their warranty holds up, but then they're responsible for something that goes wrong. It really comes down to lawyers and liability.
Another Car 15 question, SOG and Mike 4 says, guys talk about carrying 600 plus rounds, yet generations later, the M4A1 couldn't handle it. Was that all because of the barrel thickness? And how did those bolts handle it?
The problem with the M4 in the cars, they were pencil barrels. They were not designed for extended use. They were designed as lightweight carbines. The barrel would blow in about 400 rounds of consistent fire with a thin barrel. So you're carrying the ammunition that you were carrying at that point. If you fired all that at once in one battle, chances are you're probably going to blow the barrel because you're going to reach transformation temperature. However, the M4A1 will go over about 20 magazines without a barrel failure. The bolts are not the problem. For the bolt to be a problem, the heat would have to be. The barrel would blow before the bolt would break, unless you had a very, very warm bolt. Your system has a lot to do with that. But the reality of it is the M4 with its thin contour barrel was never designed to be an assault rifle. It was designed to be a lightweight support carbine. When the M4A1 came out with the SOCOM barrel, now the gun was developed as an assault rifle for general purpose use.
Mad Veteran, that is a very generous
donation.
Thank you
so much.
So much. We really appreciate it. Our channel definitely needs those kind of donations lately. I feel like the overhead is going through the roof as far as expenses goes, because we have a lot of really good things coming up, and the channel, the direction is going is really good. We have some interviews for you guys coming up.
Oh, I'm very anxious to announce that to you. I'm just going to wait till you get more.
Okay,
we'll wait.
We'll wait. Chris, SR25 or MR762 and why? I know the Army went with the G28 over the M110 some years back, and I wonder if it was really due to performance.
Well, quite frankly, I'd say LMT, but if you're only going to give me those two choices, I would say SR25 all day long. And here's my reason. First accuracy performance, I will always give it to the SR25, but also parts compatibility and parts availability. Everything on the MR762 is completely and utterly proprietary. Every part. Now, it's an excellent rifle. I'm not telling you that at all. The problem is if a part goes, you have to go to H&K, and you're probably going to have to give up your firstborn in cost to be able to replace that. Where SR25 bolts are like bolts, whatever will go. All the trigger mechanism, buffers, all parts to keep an SR25 going. If Knight's closed its doors tomorrow, you would still be able to keep an SR25 running. HK, no. Every part's proprietary. Your ability to be able to get new barrels and things like that. You don't have options to change out barrels like you do with the SR25. Your SR25 barrel goes out. You want to get another one, fine. You want to get a shorter barrel, a longer barrel. You want a heavier barrel, a lighter barrel. You just have options coming out every orifice. The MR762, as you've bought that from H&K, I have one, is what the rifle's going to be and what it's always going to be. HK does not, and there's no manufacturers out there who are making parts compatible with that because so few people own them.
Dave on Donnerbox wants to know, a lot of focus is usually about firearms and ammo. Would you be able to comment anything on firearms storage industry or development?
Say it again.
Would you be able to comment anything on firearms storage industry or development?
Fire storage image?
Firearms storage industry or development.
Let's see, I guess I'm trying to understand what he's asking me. How you store ammunition and guns?
I'm not sure.
So please give us a little bit more information on that.
Dave on Donnerbox, if you can send me an email to hbartacci@smallarmsolutions.com, I'll type it in here too so that you get it. And just give me a little clarification on what your question is, and we'll. What are your thoughts about the KP-15 lower, and what would Stoner do 2020 project? What do you think about lightweight materials and firearms in general? Are they pencil barrels the future of carbines?
Absolutely not. Well, first off, getting to your lower receiver, I have been trying to get my hands on one of those from Brownells. They have not been available, so supposedly they're going to be sending me one when one does. For as far as that receiver is concerned, it stands to be seen. It sounds like it's very good, but for as far as the pencil barrels are concerned, pencil barrels are not good for combat use, period. They're too thin. They heat up too quickly. They're not a good idea, especially in carbines. That's why you see the M4 go from a thinner barrel profile to a heavy profile. That's what makes it into a rifle. Now, for something that's it's a lightweight, like a camper rifle or something you're just going to be carrying around just for personal protection or whatever, it will. Everything has a place. When I look at guns for military reliability and durability, something that I would stake my life on, whether it be one incident or an entire war. And that's where I look at it as the pencil barrels. No. The M16A1s did good in Vietnam, with 20-round magazines. They generally didn't have enough ammo with them to get them to that point of transformation, and they weren't used. The pencil barrels that you're seeing today, they're thinner than the original M16A1 barrels, where you can get to the point where you can make the gun so light that it's dangerous to you, and that it can become a liability. Sometimes you just need to carry the extra weight to have the durability that can be the difference between that gun blowing up on you or having failures to extract when you need it, when it heats up. And that's the problem with these ultra thin barrels. What would Stoner rifle do? It would be a great rifle to carry with you just as a backup when you're camping, for as far as something that you're going to get into a battle type with. With that thin of a barrel, no, I wouldn't trust it.
Is it worthwhile to upgrade to go from an HK USB Expert 45 to an FNX 45 Tactical if I were getting some of my money back?
Well, I have both. The only problem that the HK has is it was not optics ready. So when I look at two of them, that's the difference. I couldn't really choose between the two of them, so that's why I kept both, because the HK also fires beautifully suppressed. I have to say the FNX is my favorite of the two, just because of the fact that it is optics ready. It does everything you want it to do, as a higher capacity magazine. I think it's a little bit better pistol for as far as those features, but I tell you can't beat the recoil reduction mechanism in the USP 45. That makes a difference. That's why I kept both, is because there are certain things about both that I really, really like that I just didn't want to get rid of.
Tad on Doorbox, he wants to know if you have any experience with Steyr pistols.
Very, very minimal. To be honest with you, I have been trying to get Steyr pistols for review since I started this channel. And for some reason, Steyr has never responded to me. We have the NRA show coming up here.
Which we will be at.
Yeah, and
unfortunately, I have to go. He's making me.
I'm going to be trying to get a hold of people there to try to get some more of these other guns I've been trying to get contacts with the companies. Well, we got about 200 people in here, so now I want to make a really important announcement. That
I wasn't done with this one.
Oh, you weren't? I'm sorry.
Why isn't either the Beretta PX4 or APX more popular? I just don't get why Beretta doesn't push them the way they do the 92 series. Is it because the 92 series is the military classic?
Well, the 92 series, they have tons they can say about it. U.S. military service in dozens of countries worldwide, one of the most proven pistols on the face of the earth. The PX4 and APX, for instance, both of those pistols never have seen military service. They're new designs. They're ones that haven't really been accepted the way they're named too. It's sort of like having one pistol that's been used all around the world and one that's brand new. What are people going to trust more? The one with the the history and the track record. Quite frankly, the PX4 is a very large pistol. I think that's hurt it a lot. Also, the fact with people who like to suppress it because of the rotating barrel, that's sort of a problem. The APX, it's a nice pistol, but you have so much that you're competing with.
Okay, go ahead.
I have something I'm actually extremely excited about telling you guys. As you know, the NRA show is coming here to Houston in September. I have got it arranged where we're going to be doing a video interview with Carl Lewis from Lewis Machine and Tool. He's going to be coming here to our home, and we're going to be interviewing him on a video. Also, Mark Westrom, the former owner of Armalite, we'll be doing the same with him, and we're going to be doing a series of videos with him on many issues. I am extremely happy that Carl is taking time out of his busy schedule to come here and to do an interview, so I can introduce you to the guy who I think makes the best AR-15 on the face of the earth. He's absolutely wonderful guy, as humble as they can be. He is proactive as can be. And Mark Westrom, with his background in multiple different weapon systems and on Armalite and everything, I really think that these are going to be some awesome things.
And they'll be here. They're not
Yep.
going to be like a video chat
Yep.
or anything like that. It's going to actually be here in the, if you want to call it the SAS studio, it's going to be here.
If you guys have questions,
I'm going to open it up for actual questions, not here, because I won't be able to track them and take care of them. But I'll make a post on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon about these interviews, and you can post questions that you would like for either Mark or Carl, and then we'll compile them together. And then he does a lot of research, and he'll kind of go from there with what he's going to ask. But yeah, he'll be here, in the SAS studio to do some interviews.
Both those guys have been close personal friends of mine for the last 20 years. And as I said, LMT, people say, oh, you got to be in their pocket or everything because you talk so highly of them. No, I'm like anybody else who has favorite equipment. And if I have to have a favorite, just like you do, of whatever your weapon systems are.
And as his wife, I can attest to the fact that he has spent our money on these things.
Yeah, and considering that I did work for Carl for a very brief period of time, he didn't pay me money. I wanted his guns, so I would do contracts for him and say, hey, I want one of your new MRPs, or I want one of your new barrels, or whatever. I would work just so I could get some of his product. So that sort of gives you an idea of how much of a fan I am. Nobody gives me stuff for free, and so I'm not skewed either way. I have a system that I followed since it was a prototype. I followed the MRP since it was a prototype all the way through the last 20 years. I spent a lot of time as a writer publicizing that so people could see how wonderful it is. So I'm really, really excited about it.
I have a spare Colt BCG for my LE 6920, primarily because of the current political climate. For frequent rifle training, what should I expect if the BCG fails at all?
The bolt carrier will never fail you. The one thing that can happen with the bolt carrier is, the carrier key screws shear off, which is extremely rare. For as far as the bolt breakage is based on a lot of different things. My guess is you probably will never break a bolt in your life because of that amount of round counts. And generally, it has a lot to do with full auto fire. So my chances are that's going to be a spare part you're just going to have forever. The only parts that you really replace on a regular basis just to maintain your reliability is your extractor springs and your ejector springs. Those are what's going to fail you long before the bolt will.
Have you ever used a GSL technology suppressor?
No, I have not. As I said, I have issues because I'm not a class 3 answers. So I basically have to buy them, get tax stamps on them, and that's what I have. And Silencer Co. is my biggest ones. I will say that just today, my FFL received the new one coming. It was put out by Radical Firearms. It was 3D printed. So I'm looking forward to testing that. Of course, I got to put a tax stamp in for that one before I can use it. So it's probably going to be a while before I can do anything with it. But there's a lot of really awesome suppressors that are out there. The thing is just that, I don't have the ability right now. At some point, I may have an FFL and an SOT. But as of now, I don't have the ability to just test a lot of these different suppressors.
Going back to Dave's question for some clarity, he wants to know if there's anything new and exciting in the approach of firearms storage. Case in point, there's a company called Secure It, as their approach is modularity, portability, and most importantly, just decentralization and concealment. Most safes are usually a heavy metal box. Secure It has a refreshing approach to weapon storage. I'd love to hear anything from Chris if he has any opinions on firearm storage.
Well, it depends on what kind of storage you're talking about. If you're just storing them in a safe, basically you need to make sure that you keep put a CLP patch through the barrel with some kind of a preservative.
He's talking about the technology of securing firearms that are not in a metal box. If you know anything about
just safety devices. I'm sorry. I'm getting. As I said, my head bounced once or twice. So.
I'll answer it for you. He doesn't know a lot about that at all. In fact, that's a problem that we have, because we would love to get away from the traditional, metal safe where you put firearms in. I think it would be great if it was a component of your home that was secure, that was hidden, and maybe with a lock that, a finger touch or something like that you can get into, instead of just a big metal box, especially when you get into the realm that, I'm sure a lot of people are, Chris is, where, you kind of outgrow a tin can very, very quickly. That's something, once we are settled, because this is not our home, we still need to, since we've moved to Texas, we still need to buy a home and make it ours. And that is something that we will be looking into. So it's an interesting topic, because we will be having to go along. Maybe we'll be able to answer that question maybe in 2 or 3 years when we have a home of our own, because that's going to be something that we really would like to have.
They do have cages that you can put up in your home, where they're like military weapons racks. Those are some options for storage as well.
That sounds great. Let's put it in the living room.
Well, it's difficult. That's why a lot of people, one of the things that I want to consider doing is making the entire room a safe. With an actual lock on the actual real safe type door on it for security.
Because you outgrow those boxes.
And when you construct these buildings, especially if you're building a house, you need to make sure that when you put up your walls, you put up chicken wire, behind the drywall on the sides and on top of the roof, because if someone tries to break in, you want them to have a hard time getting through that chicken wire before they can get through. That can be enough time to get police to your house. There's different things that are done to try to make these rooms a little bit more secure.
He said the look on her face when he mentioned weapons rack. That's why I don't want to show you my face, because I don't want to show his reaction. Because that would be the living room. And if he had a whole room that was gun racks, he'd just have a bed in the middle of it. That would be his safe place.
I went my way and decorate.
Adnan on Donor Box. Hi, Adnan. When did the idea of a complete free float handguard rail first become conceptualized, and did Arms Incorporated have some influence when the idea was first being developed, especially when KAC first released their RIS-RAS quad rails, and which are still being issued to the military today, but they're not free floated, especially since the industry has a plethora of better rails in the market?
The very first free floated rail was Dick Swan's rigid frame system. That was the very first time that there was a free floated rail that came out. Reed Knight was not the first to come out with that. Even after that, the first production free float rail was the Arms SIR system. The rails that Knight came out with, the RIS and the RAS and all that, those were ones that went from one handguard to the other, like a standard handguard that had rails on it. But the first free float was undoubtedly the rigid frame system, which if you have Black Rifle 2, you'll see it. Then, of course, the second one was the Arms SIR system, which if you have Black Rifle 2, you'll also find that. But that was really that was a concept for the free float. The rail, came out of. There's a little bit of contention about this, and I had found this with writing Black Rifle 2. A lot of evidence went to point that Dave Lutz was the one who conceptualized the RAS and the RIS, but he adamantly says no, that it was Reed Knight. Reed Knight says after seeing Black Hawk Down, that incident there, he saw guys with who were taping flashlights to their rifles. I mean, he said there had to be a better way to mount it, which is how he conceptualized the RIS and the RAS. But yeah, that was done before by Dick Swan at Arms.
All things being the same, is there any bullet velocity difference between a 16-inch carbine barrel and the 16-inch mid-length barrel?
No, it's nothing to do with it. You're still tapping. You're just tapping off gas. You're not losing any velocity whatsoever.
Daryl and Donorbox, thank you, Daryl. I have the new S&W Shield PC with ported barrel. How can I find the Knights you're on?
The what?
Oh, he says he has the new S&W Shield PC with ported barrel.
Okay. I have one right behind me here in a case that I'm doing a video on. Thanks to Brandon at the gun.
And then he just says, how can I find the Knights that you're on? We are right now. We always have to, unfortunately, schedule around our children. But for the next year, we will be on Thursdays. We generally float between Wednesdays and Thursdays, but for the next year we'll be Thursdays, and it's same time, 8 to 9. There's some weeks that we can't do it because of, filming and whatnot. But if you're on Facebook, we have Small Arm Solutions, and I usually post it there. I also post it in the YouTube feed. And on the newsletter. Sometimes I'm not so great about the newsletter. I apologize for that, but I try to get that out too. But generally Thursdays, 8 to 9, you can pretty much guarantee that we'll be here.
The next video that's coming up is brought to you by our really good friend Alex, who was kind enough to loan it to us. The Leitner Weiss Rifle Company 499 LWR Coast Guard rifle. Those of you who have Black Rifle 2 are familiar with it, and those who don't probably have never heard of it. It was a program that was done for the Coast Guard that was very, very interesting, that I was around when this was being done. I think you guys might find it interesting. Unfortunately, it's not something that you can buy. It's not something that you would want to buy, but it's a really interesting piece of history.
Do you have any thoughts on SDI School of Gunsmithing? Would really appreciate your opinion.
Never really looked into it. As I said, I learned on the job, so I never had been to one of those schools. I know Tim Emerson or Mac, he speaks highly of it, and I don't believe he would speak highly of it unless he felt that it was a very viable and a good school. I can't tell you anything firsthand about it. There's not a lot of schools that you can go to for gunsmithing, so I'm sure it would be certainly a good option. You definitely will learn something from it.
Somebody wants to know what your favorite gun movie is. He loves Weeper Soldiers.
Yeah, but I also have to say there's
Red
something
Dawn.
else. Yeah, Red Dawn. There's a movie that just came out. It was on Kalashnikov. It was done in Russia, and they did it in subtitle. They did it, redid it in English. I think it was. It's available on Apple TV about Kalashnikov's life, and I really, really, really like it. They did a really good job at keeping to the facts of his life, and they had cooperation from the Kalashnikov Museum, where you saw actual prototypes that were being used in that movie. It was an excellent tribute to Kalashnikov, who was brilliant, who was a genius, who was a true patriot to his country. I just really liked it. But of course, We Were Soldiers, Red Dawn, Heat. Heat probably is one of the best firearm scenes ever put on film. In fact, that shootout scene where they're at the bank, Special Forces use that as an example. It's funny, they use Val Kilmer's example of how to reload under stress. They show it. So that's how good that these guys trained up for that. So, boy, I think nobody could forget to mention Heat.
Everybody always asks if Chris watches sports or anything like that. No, he generally has to have some kind of a body count. There has to be like a gun involved in there somewhere.
I've never had another hobby in my life since I was 10 years old. This is all I do. It's all I've ever done, whether it was professionally or a hobby. This is all I do. I don't watch sports or anything. If I'm not doing a video, I'm reading. If I'm not reading, I'm out at the range. If I'm not that, I'm on the phone trying to get stuff to review, or I'm consulting with a manufacturer, writing a manual. This is all I do. I've never
He
done anything
literally
else.
sits there preparing and researching into the wee hours.
Yeah,
with
a
his
lot of
big
work goes
monitor.
into this. It's
Lot of
not.
work.
I just don't pop this all off the top of my head. There's a lot of stuff I have a lot of personal experience with, but we got to fill in blanks and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of work and prep that goes into all this stuff.
I'm trying to get him into MMA now because that's the only sport that I really like is MMA, which is I always say is a fun fact about Heather. Because no one looking at me, nobody would think that I would like MMA, but I'm excited about the fight Saturday. Trying to get him excited about it. He likes to watch the girls beat each other up. So.
I love Ronda Rousey.
Is it possible for Trijicon to develop an optic like LCAN Spectre line that has the ability to flip between 1 to 4, but on their traditional ACOG line of optics?
Oh, they certainly could, but why would they? As much as I love the LCANs, their optics and everything are great, you only have 2 settings. Trijicon likes to go with generally 4 or 5 settings, which is more useful. I think LCAN has their own niche with what they do. No one else has ever done it because I think it's more beneficial to have multiple settings rather than just 2.
People like MMA and they say UFC is a good sport. I'm a huge McGregor fan, so I get very excited when I watch him fight.
And my Canadian friends out there, I watched a really good movie last night, Strange Brew.
And somebody else mentioned too that you watch Gun Stuff and Cobra Kai, which is,
yes.
I did forget to mention.
In fact, I'm about ready to start my 11th go.
Oh my god. Let's see. Scrolling up here. Thoughts on the enclosed slide bred in 92s like the Vector SP1 and some of the Turkish copies?
Well, many of you may not know, but I mentioned this in my Beretta M9 video. A company named Phobos had developed a closed slide for the M9 after they heard about the slide failures. There was a very small amount of them that were bought by the Navy. They enclosed the slide and they beefed up the area on the right side where you have where the locking lug goes, that area in there where it failed. And it was looked at, and the true cause of the slide failures was the ammunition and the ammunition. It was a problem, which is why the slide was never developed. And unfortunately, there are people who don't forget once there is a problem, even though the problem is no longer there. So Beretta probably has done, and some other companies have done that. Well, people are saying the M9 piece of garbage because the slide will break. Well, we're going to change the slide, so that won't happen. So there are some things that are done just because of people who don't know any better. But that's what they want. So what do? Do you not make a gun? Make gun people may not want, or you just give somebody from what they want? That's what it really comes down to. There's no need to have a change slide. Now, as far as the Brigadier is concerned, I'm a big fan of the Beretta Brigadier because it beats up those areas. It's not the problem. It's not the open slide. It's when you're using really brutal ammunition. It's the area, the locking block area, which only if you're using ammunition you shouldn't be. That's why you see some of these changes. But the U.S. government did look at it with the Phobos slide, and they decided after they got the M82 ball ammunition right, we don't need those.
There's been a lot of comments about the JFK series. It is coming. I think he's finally done with the research part.
Yes, I am. Now we're
just when I think that he's done,
I've got separated now into four parts. So the next thing is we're having monsoons here in Houston.
That's
it's
what
brutal.
I was going to say.
We can't get out. We can't get out.
It's been like at least a month, and it's rained like every single day. I mean, we can't go to the beach. We can't do anything. We can't take our kids to the pool. It's like it's terrible weather. So obviously we don't want to spend our money to go to Dallas and the time to get rained out. But also too, because I've had to buy a lot of equipment to be more mobile for this series. We've never filmed on location. My setup is for here. I don't have portable boom mics and monopods and the kind of cords and capability to film out at location. So I've been kind of collecting gear for that. And actually today I realized that there was still another piece of equipment I still need to buy and order. But whenever he went to SHOT Show in the past, pre-COVID, he literally had somebody, he handed his phone.
iPhone.
Yeah. He said, here's my phone. Can you record this interview? Because I couldn't leave. We had very young children and I couldn't leave, and we've never had any help before. So, I couldn't just take off and go to Vegas with him. So now that our kids are older and getting up there, they can, kind of take care of themselves and we can leave. I will start to be on location more. Like NRA will be my first time that I actually will be there to film. So you'll actually get more of a professional quality filming. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. JFK is there. It's ready. We're trying to get the weather to cooperate, and it's going to be a very long endeavor to do a 4-part series on it. But
it's going to be her biggest challenge so far.
But it is happening.
Yeah, this is sort of a good example of when you guys donate to us where this money is going. We're doing a lot to change this channel. You're going to see upcoming in the next couple of videos, with the implementation of steel targets and remote cameers to show the steel targets.
Yeah,
because
he did have it, and then it got shot the first.
Yeah. So you're going to see how we're trying to put money into the channel to start
not
bringing
even
more.
Try to put money. All of the money we're getting is really rotating back into the channel.
Yeah, we're trying to make things better.
We're struggling to pay, our bills, because at the end of the day, all the money that comes in is going right back into the channel, because we're trying to make it bigger and better. And there's so many amazing things that are coming up ahead.
Everybody tells me how dry I am, and they want to see something a little bit better. So we're trying to implement that. And I will tell you, the footage we've gotten so far with the remote cameras and everything is going to be really neat. It's going to really, if you look at one of our original videos and look at what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, you'll see we've come a long ways.
And this is a really good question. Heather, curious to learn your background in filming and production, and how did you get into it?
It's called necessity. It's called baptism by fire.
My background is in legal. I have a paralegal certification, and I went to school for political science. So everything I do, I had to teach myself.
You have to move this camera down and let them see this. They've got to see this.
I don't care about the dog.
Yes, they do. I'm sure you guys want to see the assault terrier.
I would love to be able to finish answering the question. That would be great. I had to teach myself everything when it came to Adobe and operating, audio, and it's been quite a labor, but I believed in him, and I believed in putting it on TV for you to watch and create this channel, because I felt like there's a lot of channels out there that are just guys that love, firearms, but this guy's actually, been a forensic scientist. He's actually worked for Colt, LWRC, LMT, and he's trained military and police all over the world.
This is my profession. This isn't my, I'm not an enthusiast. This is my profession. This is how I've supported my family for the last 20 years.
And even though he's dry, I believe that there's a hole there for people who like the meat and potatoes of firearms. And so it really just became me wanting to create this channel and put him out there. And it took me 3 years to convince him to do it. And every step of the way, I have to let him know that I'm still there. But
they need to see Levi.
Oh my God. There's Levi. I can't lower it down.
He's just sitting here.
Oh my God.
He wants donations for his toys.
He hasn't been fed. He has no kibble left. Anybody want to donate some toys? Matthew Connor says, "Here's for the upcoming pay-per-view. Go wonderful."
So I can sit here and watch her drool over this guy.
Well, yeah, my oldest
married
daughter,
an Italian, not an Irishman.
My oldest daughter wanted to invite her friends, and I was like, no.
Yeah, she can't have anybody distracting her.
No. I want to watch my fight, and I don't want to have to throw your friends out of the house. Like, shut up. In gun manufacturing engineering community, I heard there was some controversy surrounding Paul Leitner Weiss. Does this name stand out? Or am I mistaken? We just did a video. We just finished it today.
Paul is a very, very controversial individual. Um, there was a point he couldn't even go back to England because of warrants. There's been a
Dang.
lot of things with Paul over the years. He's a brilliant man. There was a lot of financial issues. Um, yeah, I don't want to get into any defamation here, but I will tell you that Paul has been very controversial. Uh, you know, like LWRC, his company, he basically got kicked out by his shareholders, and that's where LWRCI came from.
Supposedly.
Yes,
Allegedly.
he has sued them for for the patents for the external piston system that LWRCI uses today. They lost. He lost. Um, so he had definitely got basically kicked out of his own company for many reasons. He's tried to sell people things that just didn't work. Uh, he's a nice enough guy, but yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
We just did a video.
Yeah.
And he mentions Paul Leitner Weiss in it.
Yeah.
So that video will be up this weekend.
I'll just say he's definitely controversial.
Allegedly. It was all allegedly. Did I miss? The Gore 54 Miller, did you have a question? I don't see anything. Thank you otherwise. But if you have a question, please let me know. I'll try to keep looking for it in case it pops up. What do you think is one of the most negative or backwards additions or trends for the AR that was adopted by the military or by the civilian market?
Well, there's been a lot of abortions out there over the year. Was one. The sucker used to break. You look at some of the earlier polymer lower receivers that would snap off. You look at a lot of the companies who were just throwing guns together just during when the first once 2004 hit, and then we started getting threats of more assault manslaughter the companies that just opened up and just were throwing guns together and getting out the door, trying to cash in on the frenzy. There's still people who put together a lot of crap guns. There's a lot of companies out there that are assemblers and not manufacturers. And I've told you guys a long time, if you build a rifle, you have to be very careful when you're building from a lot of different companies' parts, because you don't know what the tolerances are. You don't know how the parts are going to be together for reliability. So I think a lot of the companies that just put together things from parts risk putting out bad guns. You see like commercial companies who put out bolt carriers where you would have bolts that would break, teeth that locking plugs that would come off, that would break off. As I said, there's just so many manufacturers out there, but you just had those handfuls of manufacturers who make the kind of guns that if you got into trouble, this is what you'd want in your hands. There's a lot of cartridges out there, for instance, that made a good debut but died off quickly. There's a lot of cartridges that have done that. That's probably the best I can say about those.
Evan on Donorbox, thank you, Evan. I have always wanted a Krebs or another high-end AK in my collection, but it's out of my price range. Is it possible to make the same improvement at home or get close to his quality? If so, what are the improvements? What AK platform makes the best rifle to build from? And lastly, would I be better served saving for the premium rifle, or could I save enough time and money to make it worthwhile?
No, I would save the money and get one that's built. This is the reason. AKs are not like ARs where you just assemble them. You literally have to build them. You really have to drill and press fit. You have to have presses and things. You have a receiver that's riveted. It's not like an AR. When you buy one of these ones, and I would Krebs and Rifle Dynamics are the ones that really stick out to me that I've liked over the years. They're also going to give you American-made barrels that are concentric. That's going to allow you to be able to suppress them. Where with anything else you're going to buy, it's really a crapshoot. Most of the European ones, they're not concentric and you can destroy. You can't really suppress. The abilities to have gas valves on them, ability to have custom triggers. One of the things they do with the triggers is they know how to hone these suckers down so the triggers get absolutely beautiful the way that they break. Being able to choose the stock that you want, being able to choose the sights, have the ability to put optics on the AK, which your standard AK is generally not optics ready. The Krebs I did the video on. If you go back and the Rifle Dynamics I did not too long ago, take a look at that video. You can see how they have a rail on top of the gas tube, where I have a reflex sight, which cuts your time by 3/4 of immediate engagement when you bring it up to your eye. There's a lot of things that go into making these guns the quality that you're looking for. And dude, unless you're really an AK master, you're not going to do it yourself. You need to have a professional do it. Another guy I would talk to is Vince Buckles out of Kinetic Research Development. He is awesome out of Gonzales, Illinois. But Vince Buckles, he's built several AKs for me, and he can build you whatever you want.
Keith on DonorBox, thank you so much, Keith. He says he's watching the live stream right now, and he said that we're great, and here's some money to help with the business. He's in Michigan.
Can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
And he said, "Stay dry."
I think we can probably hear it.
I think he means because they were talking about you saying that you're dry.
Oh.
And well, that's why, sometimes I've done bloopers before, because I want you to see that he does have a sense of humor.
Well, because of
very
this,
childlike.
I was inspired by what Tim did over.
About last week.
We did. Yeah, so we're gonna get to the range again because of this.
Yeah.
You're gonna be seeing a video on my Sasquatch gun, the gun that I will be using to hunt Bigfoot.
If he was gonna hunt Bigfoot, what gun would he use? Mac did something about aliens.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah. Moving away from ARs, obviously the answer is L1A1. But what do you think is the best combat file was or is?
I would have to say the Belgian myself. I tell you, if you're looking for answers on that, I would go to Michiko. William has several videos on, and he talks about pretty much every one that was ever made. He is really a FAL expert. I probably would refer you to go see some of his videos. I own a DS Arms, and the DS Arms FAL that I have, I absolutely love. It's a basic rifle. It's built off of Austrian tooling, Austrian TDP. The rifle is beautiful, but there's a lot. William has all the ones that come in from Germany and Austria and Israel, Belgium. He's just literally got all of them, British ones, and he probably could definitely be more to give you all the details that you would want.
Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. Is the MCX Legacy a good option for a go-to rifle?
Which one?
The MCX Legacy.
Yeah. The MCX is a battle-proven weapon. It has been adopted by military special forces. It definitely. Now, a lot of people will tell you you want to go with the Vertex. Mine is the original. The original I have. I have both barrels for it and everything. Never had a single issue with it. So I don't have the Versus. I have the Vertex or Versus. I get those confused. I have the original one, the first one that came out, and I absolutely love it. But absolutely, that is a combat proven rifle. That's what it was designed for. Same thing with the MPX. The MPX, I think, is the best 9mm PCC or PPC that exists today.
How far did the APX make it in the MHS program?
We don't know. The way this goes down in these government tests is the manufacturers only learn about their pistol. They don't get a breakdown of the final results. That stays with the Army. So, for instance, wherever that failed, Beretta would have been notified. This is how far it went. This is where it failed. This is why it was discontinued, or why it was disqualified. They don't release that information to everybody. Released to the manufacturers on their gun. So where exactly it fell in between it, we don't know. But we do know that it didn't even make the down select, which I know was 12,000 rounds, just a 12,000 round firing. So the problem was it getting through its first 12,000 rounds without the malfunctions that to meet the requirement.
I've heard Daniel Defense no longer produces any of their lowers and possibly other parts too, and that most parts outside of the barrels and rails have been outsourced to PSA. Do you believe that there's any truth to that?
I have no idea. Daniel Defense is not a company I've done a lot with. The guns I have reviewed from them were beautiful, but Daniel Defense is known for putting out premium quality guns. If they do, there's nothing wrong with outsourcing. The thing is if you have to make sure that you give them your specifications, and when the parts come back, that you're checking the parts to make sure they're made to your specifications. So as long as they're holding that high standard, if they outsource it, it doesn't make a difference as long as they're made to their standards. But I don't have any firsthand information on that. No.
Do you think that you'd be under equipped with a FAL? If you were going to choose a rifle that's not an AR-15, which rifle would you choose?
Probably one of the ones that really comes to mind would be the Bren 2. That certainly is a rifle that quickly comes to mind. Um, I wouldn't have a problem with carrying a Galil Ace uh, at all. But probably the Bren 2 would probably be the one that sticks out most to me. I have mine SBR'd, and I absolutely love it. I'm actually thinking of doing a video comparing the Scar 16 to the Bren 2 because I've been giving an awful lot of thought lately because I own both rifles and shot both of them. So I'm strongly thinking about doing a video on a comparison between those two.
Where would you rank a real Colt LE 6920 compared to other AR platforms that are available nowadays?
You have to understand that the LE 6920 is an M4, M4 1995 technology. So it's the U.S. government equivalent. When you talk about what's available today, you're looking at guns that well exceed that with the free float barrels and the other 6-position stocks and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a different animal. But when the LE69 first came out, it was the standard from which every AR was compared, because at that time your Colt was putting out the rifles that had the exact same military contract parts in it. So the rifles were just utterly reliable. They were the best in the industry. So if you wanted them, you would buy your basic M4 Colt 6920 as your base, and then from there you would take your handguards and you would your your other because I'd be to that to build something that would be equivalent to what you have today. Um, that's really how that went. But again, when you look at the 6920, you're really looking at a basic M4, which again, I don't want to say antiquated by today's terms, but for as far as features is concerned, it's light years ago. Those guns didn't have any of the MB features that we see now. You still have your standard mil spec barrel. You have mid-length gas systems now, which are improvements. It's older technology compared to what we see today. Lots of improvements today.
Any experience with Shaw barrels?
No, sir. Never used those. Dogs are so relaxing, I have to say.
Well, I decided to pull him up here because otherwise every Q&A, he sits over here, he whines and cries. 458 SOCOM versus a 450 Bushmaster. What's the better cartridge?
I have to say I would go with the Bushmaster, and this is the reason. Ammunition is plentiful. The guns are now perfected. They work excellent. They're well supported. 458 SOCOM, none of the major manufacturers make that. Where if you look at the 450 Bushmaster, you're looking at Remington, you're looking at Remington, Federal, Hornady. You have several different major manufacturers of it. Lots of bullets available. I definitely think the 450 Bushmaster is the way to go these days. Actually, I just shot that with a video that's coming up on the Wyndham MCS. That was one of the barrels that we used.
What are your thoughts on running steel case ammunition in the Glock platform?
They're fine. It's again, ammunition just isn't as good. It wears your extractor a little bit more because you got steel on steel, but that's really about it. The ammunition's not as good. You don't have as good a consistency in powder. They generally tend to be a little lower pressure side.
Could an AR-15 be made in a world without oil?
No, or anytime you cut metal, you got to keep the metal cool.
What is your view on replacing standard spring buffers with JP silenced captured springs?
It's not a gimmick. I guess it's a Cadillac type thing if you want to improve it. I don't think it's necessary at all. Um, they're not full auto rated. Um, it's additional parts. You're looking at a two-part system versus a multi-part system. Um, I think it's a lot of money to spend for a very little gain.
Who makes the finest AR today?
You've heard me say all the times if I had to go to the store and buy one, the LMT MRP Mars MLS with the CQB upper with M-Lock on it.
I know you did a comparison, but if you can only have one in today's climate, an SR15 16-inch or LMT MRP 16-inch, which one?
LMT, just because I can do so much. I don't have one rifle with the LMT like I do with the SR25.
This is another LMT question. This might be a good question for Carl. Oh, wait, I just moved. Oh, do you think LMT will expand their line in the near future?
They've been expanding like crazy. They've been doing so much expansion this year, bringing in new machines. They're already starting to outgrow the building that they just went into. Their backlogs go back a year. They are continuing to bring in new machines. So it's happening now.
My wife is cross-eyed dominant. Any suggestions for her AR-15 sight system?
Well, it's funny because I talk about that in my M14 video. People who are left eye dominant and but they're right-handed, and a lot of these guys do choose to use left-handed rifles for it. But for as far as optics are concerned, it doesn't make a difference because it doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. It's going to be the issue is going to be is how you're going to be able to lay your head on the rifle. Generally, if you are left eye dominant, it's probably best to try to shoot left-handed because it's easier. But for the most part, it really comes down to how you're going to hold the gun.
Which of the new rifles being considered do you like? SIG, Gen Dynamics, or Textron?
The problem is I've not had opportunity to look at them firsthand. I read the same things that you do, and looking at the reading, there's some of them look better than the others, but it's not fair for me to give you an opinion on that when I never had one in my hand. I never had a chance to actually examine it because again, I read the same thing as you do, so my opinion wouldn't be any better than yours or worth more than yours.
I know you're not a huge bullpup fan, but which military model would you choose if you were forced to? L85, FAMAS, AUG, Tavor.
Tavor, hands down.
Thoughts on 6.8 SPC?
I am fond of it. I have a few rifles. The 6.8 Spec 2. Unfortunately, you won't find ammunition made for it because Spec 2 doesn't have a SAMI spec. That's why you see most guns are Spec 1. It has to do with the ammunition. Because there's a SAMI spec for the cartridge and for the chamber. It's an excellent all-around cartridge. It's expensive. The rifle that I have is the 6.8 A5, and to me, I think that is the finest 6.8 rifle on the market today. Used it suppressed. Those of you who hunt pigs or hunt gators or who hunt deer or hunt anything, that probably is one of the best cartridges that you can use. It's reliable, especially you get the CPROC Defense Duramags. It's reliable as can be. You have a plethora of ammunition available to you. It's an excellent cartridge. It unfortunately, just the way that it was introduced and the way it was presented was bad. You had people that were promised that this was going to see military adoption, and a lot of people fell for it. A lot of manufacturers come to find out there was never a requirement, and they didn't want to go that way back. And then this goes back to 2004 when the 6.8 SBC first arrived on scene. No, the cartridge that we're looking at right now is not the 6mm 8 SBC. It's a whole new. It's a different cartridge.
On Saturday, do you want Poirier or McGregor to win? Chris, you want to answer that?
Oh, she wants McGregor. She'll be screaming.
Do you have an opinion though?
I'm
right opinion.
My right opinion is whatever she wants.
I'm throw them out.
I'm new to it, so whatever she wants.
McGregor all the way. Anybody who's not McGregor, get out of the house.
I tend to want to go more for the the Louisiana boy rather than the foreigner, but
What is your favorite non-AR-15 modern sporting rifle in 5.56?
Well, I'm quite fond of the XCR, the Bren 2. Well, yeah, the original AR 180 I'm a big fan of. The little Ace I really like. Um, but I have to say, the more and more I've shot the Bren 2, the more and more that moose has been moving up its list.
Okay, well, we're going to shut it down for tonight. If you guys are just now tuning in, if you caught the tail end, we have interviews in the SAS studio with Carl Lewis from LMT and Mark Westrom, and I will be posting on Facebook and Patreon and Instagram for you guys to submit questions on what you would like Chris to ask, what information you're most interested in getting, and we will be compiling a list and putting that together for those interviews. So
I would like to add, if any of you guys have any Armalite rifles that were manufactured in Arizona by the Strategic Armament Company, I've been trying to get my hands on one of those newer Armalite rifles for years to review, and you're willing to loan. Please, if you do, let Heather know. I'm interested in borrowing one for a review.
you can
Thank you very
email
much.
me at hbartachi@smallarmsolutions.com.
Leroy says goodbye.